Hey everybody, and welcome back to Farm Sim 22. This is LCDRAA Ron, welcoming you back to another episode on Frankenmuth farming map today. While I'm actually getting set up and finalizing, I just wanted to say hi and say that I'm back for at least a short stream today. Nothing major, of course. But I wanted to do a little bit of streaming and kind of an explanation of what's going on with the farm itself. A lot of you may have noticed that in the past I used a lot of John Deere equipment. It was actually kind of a desire of mine before leaving Farming Simulator 19 to do an AgCo farm. So a lot of AgCo equipment actually came out in the last couple of weeks. So I did some changing around with this farm. You can see it's June the 1st. I think the last time that we had anything streamed, it was April in season. But we have changed some gear around. I have actually eliminated the John Deere equipment for the most part. I still have a couple of things that are John Deere, but that's pretty average. You can see we've got the Kavernland sprayer. That's a good spot sprayer. This is the big one, the AgCo 1000 model. I've got the Challenger variant with actually a fendt weight that you can make any color, which is wicked nice. You can see I got the LSW tires on there right now. But we've been using that for spreading slurry on the field. So we've still got our John Deere Gators. That was what we're using. This Pottinger Impress 125F Pro was actually on sale in the used market, so we changed out balers and went with the Pottinger. I did get myself a Versatile. I know it's a little outside of the AgCo realm, but I did decide that I wanted a Versatile. So we have the Versatile 550 Delta Track, which is what that DT stands for. It's just a 550 on tracks. It's got a kit. You can find Versatile in both tracked and wheeled variants. We've got over here a 7T Ideal. This is AgCo's Massey variant. I'll probably change that over to a Fendt variant. But we are going to use some equipment today that is going to be Fendt related. We're going to use some equipment that's going to be Massey Ferguson related. So let's go ahead and we'll get over to the grass field itself. You can see I got a John Deere hat on with Massey Ferguson. Kind of polo going on there. There's been a lot going on the farm. As you can see, the corn is growing strong. We planted the crud out of that. I could pick up a new plow implement. But let's go see the star of the show today. So this is the Fendt Katana. We're not done in the hayfield getting not done in the grass getting it all cut and rowed yet. So that's kind of the first job that we have today. We've got a rice trailer behind it. I actually had to go with a short pipe. The long pipe was hitting the the structure work on this. I try to test things out before I stream with them, and this was one of those variants that I wanted to test. I did try to go with a Coloss chopper, but honestly, at the end of the day, this is the AgCo variant that is out there. It's the Fendt Katana, and we're going to be using the Katana 650 today. So let's see. So I've still got my windrower over here. We're going to have to pull that into the field. But the first thing we got to do is we got to finish cutting everything today. So we're going to go ahead and head over to the field. The tractor's already over there with the mowing decks. And I'll kind of show you my mowing setup. We're gonna use the land bridge. It is my goal to actually set up some roadways here in the fall once everything's harvested out. That'll kind of be the first goal. We're going to use this wood line to get across and get over to field 11. We cross over the grass from there. And kind of go from there. Well, we can't because the The wheat fields right here is field 11. Field 10 is my grass field. As you can see, we've got things cut up. There are a few patches. I'm learning how to use a new mower setup. It's actually a mower that I prefer to use. But we're going to head over to the other strip here. We're going to cut that, and then we'll go and we'll get our windrower, and we'll actually row the grass, and we'll process it with the fendt. Now, the main reason that I'm processing grass instead of doing hay and just kind of baling and transporting out is A, the fendt katana, just like any other proper forage harvester, cannot process hay. And this is true to real life. Hay is too dry for forage harvesters to really chop without having water added. And yes, there are farmers that will spray down their windrows to get the grass up. But it's actually too dry, and it can start fires in the machines. So there is actually a real-world explanation as to why the machines can't actually unload hay. So we've got 3 rigs set up here. We've got New Holland F320P disc cutter for the front. This is a very nice rig. It'll cover all the ground in front of you. Massey Ferguson 8S. This is the modded variant. So I've got the Massey Ferguson green going on there. And then over here we have the New Holland disc bind. All 3 of these are mods. For whatever reason, Giants has never offered any sort of variant, whether it be New Holland, John Deere, or any of the other options for a disc bind. I think the closest thing, and it may be designated as a disc bind, I don't know, but the closest thing that I can find in mowers is this. And to be honest with you, it's not set up. It's not set up like a disc bind. It's just set up like like the front mower on what's there already. Kind of a shorter tongue. A disc bind for New Holland has the cutting blade similar to what you just saw on the Kverneland, but on the back here you can see the rollers, which actually crimp the grass. In other words, they press the grass goes between those 2 rollers like a rolling pin. And it crimps the grass and it pushes the moisture out so that the grass dries quicker. Now, the other reason that we are not worrying about haying or pulling it off the field as hay is because our farm has unloaded some new building equipment as well. So we have everything kind of set up to go for the feed season, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. And what's going on is we actually have a grass dryer on site now. Okay, so we're going to get this into position. Highlight and drop the first deck. It's going to tell me I don't have access to the land because we technically just parked it on a piece we don't have access to. We're going to drop the decks, and we're going to show you the disc bind. Now, disc bind moves around. It's a flexible cutter, so you can get it moving around while you're cutting in corners. You want to get it closer. You want to get it to follow the line. You just kind of set it up the best you can. I'd say the hardest thing about this setup is paying attention to the front mowing deck as well as the disc bind itself. But this will cut just as well as anything else. The only thing I will say is that the yield percentages on this field are not quite as good as I had hoped. So we'll probably change this over to an arable field of some sort. Maybe we'll put a stand of soybeans in here or something. Obviously, we don't have the ability to do that this year because we're past the soybean planting calendar. You can see, I put some work in. June the 1st is almost over. Luckily, I checked the forecast, so June the 2nd does not have any rain. In fact, I don't think we have any rain until the first day in July at this point. Apparently, maybe we've got a YouTuber beside us. They're filming. They're filming us cutting the hay. So anyway, big big announcements for Farming Simulator this month so far. We know we're getting FarmCon July 20th through the 23rd, I believe, and it's being held in John Deere's kind of headquarters, if you will, for Germany. It's kind of like an expo. So that'll be worth watching if you have the ability to get on Twitch, or if you have the ability to watch YouTubers. They, of course, have FarmCon coming up. They're going to have in-person events, as well as there's going to be a lot of online stuff for the first day. So if you're trying to tune in to get some tidbits about what's coming up in Farm Sim, you can easily do so. Okay, so we're just going to slide the disc vine in while we make the turn. The idea is we want to shift the disc vine so it's taking care of things in the turn, and then shift it out as we go back into the turn. So it can actually swivel, and depending on how you swivel the deck will dictate kind of where the disc vine goes. Like I said, the hardest thing is getting it set to handle, to pay attention both the front and the rear motors as you're kind of going through. On a butterfly deck, everything's attached, so you just kind of get to the end, pivot at the straight, and then keep going. That's why we have patches in the other field that aren't quite well. So anyway, we have information on Farming Simulator Expo, or FarmingCon, Farming Simulator Convention, whatever you want to call it. That's pretty exciting news coming for July. The end of June, however, is got some real exciting news, and that was the news and announcement of the next expansion, or the next DLC content pack that's coming out. Now, if you buy content packs separate because you don't necessarily like all of the content coming out, so you don't buy the season pass, but you buy content packs, then the next content pack may be for you if the Antonio Carrero pack wasn't. That didn't strike my fancy, but I got the season pass, so I've tried out some of the tractors and some of the equipment and gear and things. Not super impressed myself, but that's okay. I don't have to be. Not every pack is gonna be satisfactory. But the announcement came that the Kubota brand would be joining us here in Farm Sim. And that is huge. Kubota is a big brand, is a big, big deal. And so we are I'm over the moon because I live in an area that actually has a Kubota dealership, and a lot of people actually have compact tractors here to handle winter. And the only brand of choice for a long time was, in fact, Kubota. So the fact that we're getting Kubota branded stuff is really kind of cool. I turned that disc vine a bit too early. It's difficult on that edge anyway. So I'm wicked excited about that. Along with that, there was a modder that has put together rebadged equipment. So rebadge equipment is basically, obviously these agricultural companies, they own multiple different tractor productions. Kubota actually is owned by Kverneland Vicon. And as you know from the different packs that you've seen or the different equipment that you've seen, Kverneland Vicon has a lot in Farm Sim. So every one of the implements that you've seen here in Farming Simulator that has a Kverneland badge or a Vicon, well, they also have a Kubota variant in certain markets. So Kubota resells them as Kubota equipment, and they may do some changes to it, like rim styles may be different. Obviously, the color scheme is different, but they do these change-ups anyway to match the brand because people are brand loyal. And there is a modder out there that is creating all of the Kverneland Vicon equipment that we have currently in game to Kubota equipment into 3 different packs. The Grassland pack, which is mowers, tedders, windrowers, all of that, is already in testing for PC. This stuff can come out for PC at any time. It doesn't need the same licensing or agreements that things on console do. So there is a bit more flexibility with the PC. So we will be seeing some Kubota equipment out there. And I do intend on actually using Kubota equipment at some point. Doesn't mean that my Agco farm here is going to get completely lynched for Kubota. But for example, the JCB equipment that we use on the regular is going to be substituted out for some Kubota skid steers and things like that. And that content pack actually launches the end of this month on the 28th. So as of the 28th, we will have Kubota brand in Farming Sim. Now, of course, if these equipment packs that are currently in testing for PC aren't able to be released for console, I'm going to kind of skip that until we have sufficient amount of equipment out there. Obviously, Kubota does make things like combine harvesters, for example, but they're specifically geared around harvesting rice, because Kubota is originally a Japanese brand. It's not like it's European, but they're originally Japanese. So the idea behind getting a 100% Kubota farm set is not necessarily reality. Now, there are some combine harvesters that are out there that combine everything. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if there's going to be a modder out there that's going to be motivated enough to make these independent models. Now, there are Kubota mods that have been out there in the past, and some of them have been reskins of things like the John Deere Gator with a Kubota outside skin. I've seen that. I've seen the Rostel Mash harvester that we currently have in game. I've seen a Kubota reskin of that. So, I mean, there are a bunch of things that aren't real equipment. And I think for me, in order for something to be useful, even if it's European safety markered and it drives me crazy, it at least has to be real in order for me to commit to it on just general gameplay. I mean, not even a stream. So we might not see the plethora of different Kubota things out there and have like a Kubota only farm, but we're definitely going to, we're going to use it because there's a lot of lower horsepower tractors in there, and as you know, when you're dealing dairy, you don't have to have heavy horsepower. You just have to have enough to run basically implements and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily see us going full Kubota here because I want my stuff to actually be real world stuff. But I do enjoy the fact that we are finally getting that. And you will see it in some sort of influence or another. Obviously, I'm still waiting for the Stone Valley map to come out as well. But the Stone Valley map is probably going to be a bit of a romp down my normal brand, which is John Deere. I'm just not going to tell you specifics of how I'm going to set that brand up. But Kubota is definitely a grasslands work, kind of a lighter work style of tractor. The heaviest tractor that they have for horsepower right now that's going into the game is a 200 horse rig that Versatile actually produces for them in Manitoba. So there is that. The other news coming down the pike is recently in testing we have a map that is based in Canada, and that is being produced right now. And the hope is that they will actually be able to send it to Mod Hub for testing. Sorry about that. Anyway, send it to Mod Hub for all platform testing. That would be phenomenal because this is actually going to be a map that's twice the size of your typical maps in Farm Sim. So I'm really kind of looking forward to that. I'm hoping that that all works out. Because I would do that over Stone Valley any day if the map is really good. Obviously, before I stream a map on Twitch, one of the things that I like to do personally is I like to actually go through and look it over, see what kind of uniqueness it offers, and give it a go. Um, play it for a few hours by myself, and then kind of make my choice from there. All right, so that is field number 2 taken care of. If you straighten this out, the idea is to straighten this with the tongue of the device. And what'll happen is the disc mine will go in behind the tractor. It's a unique hookup. It's a 3-point link that has linkage arms. If you look at some of the variants, it's like a model that has a linkage that goes to the tractor's actual hitch. But when that happens, there's a special attachment that needs to go with it. Obviously, I picked the Massey Ferguson 8S as it's kind of my #1 choice when it comes to any of this, because it will give me the ability to use kind of a mid-range tractor that I've never had the chance to really use, but I enjoy. There is a line of tractors that there's only about 6 of them with Massey Ferguson currently. And they're being distributed to different farms across the globe. And that's the Massey Ferguson 6S, the newest model on the block. And that particular one, there's only one in the United States currently, and it is on the 10th generation dairyman's farm. So a dairy farm in Pennsylvania that's wicked cool. They're using it for just about everything, and I was looking in the cab of that as they were doing an episode last week or the week before, and I thought to myself, I really enjoy the 8S interior. I really enjoy the looks of the newer Massey Ferguson readouts and everything, and the horsepower is kind of perfect for a vehicle of this size. So for the farm, obviously we don't need anything super horsepower, and of course I say that, and I have 2 medium tractors and I have 2 very large tractors currently on the farm. So the Massey Ferguson is one of our medium size. The model that I have here is the highest horsepower model, and then of course it goes down the range. So anyway, we've got everything set here. I've got a grass dryer set up, so we're going to be able to use things. But right now what I want to do is I want to get the mowing decks down near the shop. And I say near the shop because we're not going to do maintenance on anything just yet. But we're going to have to hold up traffic here. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to cut straight across my lawn here. You see the lawn's nicely trimmed. I don't know what they did when they put down the turf texture, which is just the pure green grass. But whenever you try to cut it, it does not generate any sort of waste grass back. So meadow grass that we have, I put that in places on that, and I had to mow it the end of May in calendar, and that was able to collect some grass that I was able to feed to the Swiss brown, or the brown Swiss, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So we're going to just detach the mowers over here for now. They do have to be washed off and taken care of, just like the tractor needs a washing, but I want to get done the field work with the tractor before I start that. Doesn't make any sense to wash it now. But we'll wash it. We'll put in maintenance time, of course. We are in the process. We're pulling all the implements over to this side, to the farm. I took out most of the sheds on the other side, and we're going to kind of consolidate everything down into the sheds on the side. We have enough sheds spread out to really kind of double or triple our equipment here. But obviously, we're not going to do that either. Kind of see we've got the planter for the soybean and corn right over there. There's the cedars actually tucked behind it. And you know what? Tractor seems kind of light, so we're gonna detach. I'm gonna detach the windrower for a moment. There we go, and we do have a safety weight for the Massey Ferguson. This is a nifty mod. But it puts a little weight on the front tire, and then it adds kind of a safety buffer so the tires can't get caught in anything there. A fendt katana, I had a chance to drive it around and test out some of the inner workings of it. I haven't tested it with the rice trailer yet, but we're going to get the opportunity to do that today. Let's see. You can see we've got the safety weight can be turned in and out. Let's do ourselves a favor and open up the cab here. I'm actually going to open up the sunroof. We're going to get some cross ventilation going in there for our guy. It's June 1st. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. We may not get beyond rowing here. Oh, I think I just hit the Reich. We're taking up a lot of space on the road, so we want to try to move as best we can. This is the Corona. I think it's the Swadro 2000. It's a big bear. I'm gonna get this down the road. We're trying to do some extra grass and hay work prior to our wheat harvest. The wheat fields are growing in good. The herbicide, insecticide, fungicide, that's all placed down, and it's got the fields basically prepped. The new Agco 7T is ready to go on harvesting, and we've got a decent sized header for that. We've got the Challenger hooked up to its weight. We'll leave the balloon tires on there for harvest season because the Challenger is going to be hauling our grain cart, and then of course we have the appropriate trucks and everything else ready to go. But we're trying to get some grass work out of the way before July. Because when July rolls around, those fields will be ready to be harvested. And kind of want the focus to be on that at that point. I know the last two streams have been grass work, but we have an increasing number of cattle. And we're about to start getting some births here next month on top of the wheat harvest. So it's important that we kind of get everything handled to the best of our ability here. So we're going to unfold that. We're getting beeped at. Oh well. Sorry, can't help everything. The great thing about this Swadro 2000 is when you have large, open, flat fields like this mod works exceptionally well. It doesn't work well on maps where you have tilts and you have areas that aren't flat. It's always kind of been, it's a hard one to maneuver as it is, and it's an even hard one to really kind of control. So I won't say that this is perfect for every situation, but it doesn't require a huge amount of horsepower. So something like the Massey here can easily work with it. Obviously, I like to have the weight on there so I know that all four tires are hitting the ground and creating traction. Sometimes you can get away with these things fully unfolded and then kind of work with it. I do like the Swadro for a couple of different reasons, and Huh. I don't know why I didn't do it. The Swadro actually has an option to get rid of these European markers, which is the red and white safety markers that you see there. Or at least I thought they did. Maybe I was looking at a different mod, but I'm pretty sure it was the Swadro 2000 that had the option to get rid of those markers. So before we get super done here today, we'll probably take a look at that. This equipment will head for the head to be parked next to the maintenance shed, and we'll do the maintenance necessary on them. I like to kind of go through the various seasons and fix the equipment that's not going to be used again, or is going to have such a wide variation of being used again that it's okay. This may or may not be one of those times. I don't know. I think we've got one more cut, but then again, I may turn the next cut of grass into silage instead of hay. Depends on A, how well the grass, dryer does, and B, how much those extra cows being born for the next couple of months really put a strain on the feed supply. Because if it doesn't put a strain on the feed supply and there seems to be too much hay, obviously at some point, from a game perspective, I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do with the excess to produce money. You can see there's even for such a large implement, the Swadro does really well on turns. It has a steering axle in the back, which makes it really worth it. But this Massey 8S, I mean, this thing can haul just about anything, and it'll be, the advantage we have here is it turns this into 2 rows. I love the John Deere. The self-propelled mower that we have currently, the old school one with the twin knife cutter. I prefer the W260, just because it lays down a windrow, but at the same time I can drive that at 20 miles an hour while cutting. So it cuts the rows quick. So even with the lack of width, you do make up with it in speed. You can see this Swadro is just taking care of this whole row. I got it primarily because of that field across the way being so large. And I did take care of the cutting. I just got done working a 55-hour work week. So this is like me relaxing for a couple of hours this morning. We're going to do a little farm sim, and I'll probably knock off at about 1 here and do some puttering around. Plan is to kind of putter and get everything set so that when Father's Day weekend comes, no matter what ends up coming up, I'll be able to just kind of take care of things. See, our productions and our grain mill and our grain bins are right across the road. Omatana, which is the modder that I can greatly value for any sort of production that I'll be doing from here on out. Made that wonderful storage building there. It stores up to 20 million liters worth of material. I know we're getting more inventive mods to handle productions now. That I understand, but she had her finger to the pulse kind of the earliest on dealing with the productions, what I would consider to be a crisis. Now see, if I wanted to be real crazy, I could put those 2 windrows together. But I don't want to do that. that would just create kind of a headache. We are going to use this as a traveling lane. Um, Obviously, the output of this field, you can see the nitrogen. The nitrogen stays perfect for a while. Like grass is excellent. We don't have to do much as far as nitrogen applications go. It kind of varies. It'll lose its nitrogen actually sporadically. Like you can see, we're down 110% here, 115%, or 115 kilograms. Um, so you get kind of an idea. And then, of course, the field info just goes to harvested at this point, even though we haven't pulled it off the field. It is good to pay attention because I tend to use things like slurry and manure for the grass fields, so I have to pay attention to the rate that the nitrogen is either there or isn't there anymore. Okay, so let's look behind us here. I've got enough time to dart. If I dart now, and we just leave it spread out because I mean we're right there. Start her up. And it takes care of such a wide swath. I mean, um, it's so much easier to manage when you can take care of so much of this grass all at once. Okay. Now the other thing that I do have to figure out, I always make too wide a turn with this. So we're going to ease the pedal work. There we go. I'm actually creating a headland in the current field. And I just want to make sure that I create it with the chance for that forage harvester to really get in here. Now, before the corn silage is created, we will probably add a second rice trailer to the mix if it works well for the grass. And the reason that we do it for the grass work primarily is because we want to see what kind of effect it's going to have overall on the way that we handle silage. Silage is difficult because we don't actually have the equipment in game that most farmers doing everything by themselves would have for silage, and it's a point of disappointment for me that modders haven't created that yet, and maybe it's just there's some sort of limitation in the engine that doesn't allow for that specific thing. But it's like the old school silage trailers with the covers and the kind of the front offload, if you will, like the little belt on the front. Obviously, they have versions of them still today that are used, but they had like, you know, if you look at the way that some of the older forage harvesters handle it, there, okay, if crop destruction was on, I'd be in real trouble at the moment. But you look at the way that the old forage harvesters handled it, and there's a hitch on the back of the old forage harvesters, and they would hook to, I believe they call them bump trailers or bump hitches, where it's just kind of drive in and the hitches onto the forage harvester. And those are really nifty to have because as one tractor's hauling away a cart, the forage harvester can continue to work and not have to wait for a tractor. Feed companies now, like companies that rent and do the contract work for dairy farms, if you want to see the best operation that I've seen so far, and I mean there's 100 of them out there, don't get me wrong, but one of my favorites to watch is a company that handles everything for the 10th generation dairymen. They come in and they do multiple loads of haylage for them, and they do multiple, kind of just silage runs, and they do the corn silage as well. So it is awesome to see 6-7 tractors working in tandem with a forage harvester, and that particular contractor has a Kloss Jaguar. So if you want to see Kloss America equipment, that is one of the better YouTube channels to go to and watch. They run for the last couple of years. They've run cornfields right next to their bunks because they have fields right next to their bunker silos. And one of the cool things that you get to watch, like the last couple of years, has been the forage harvester shifting its pipe to the bunker silo, and as it does the first couple of runs by the bunker, it can just put the corn right straight into the bunk from the pipe. It's a wicked cool thing to watch. So, obviously there are so many different things that you can pick up on and watch from YouTube channels. So definitely take advantage of that if you can. But anyway, we're doing. This is finally like my Agco farm being brought to the forefront. I've been kind of putting this type of farm build off for a while. It's kind of like RPGing, farm sim. Obviously, I come from an area where farmers take advantage of what's available to them. They don't necessarily go with a certain brand, um, but that doesn't mean anything. It's like there's a dairy farm. There's a whole load of dairy farms that I pass on a regular basis at work that have older tractors but newer implements, and the newer implements don't match the brand of the tractor that they bought 40, 50 years ago, that still has enough horsepower and still runs well enough to not have to constitute them getting a new tractor of any sort. So obviously farmers run this stuff till it's into the ground, like a lot of real world farmers. There's very few that I see that are just kind of like, well, we'll lease this. I think arable farmers do it more often, because of the types of hours that they put on their equipment. I mean, you put a lot of hours into the equipment during a hay season, for example, pulling hay off the field and doing what we're doing. Farmers up north put a lot of hours in. But there are also a lot of months out of the year in which these tractors are not moving for any reason, one way or the other. So there are times where you won't see any equipment out by farmers. There are farms that I pass on the regular that you don't see. In my area, you don't see even a quarter of their equipment during the winter time because they need like two pieces to work the animal pens during the winter. Anyway, enough blathering on about anything and everything. The grass work is going spectacular. I want to have this at least rowed before the morning hours. I think after that, we'll just kind of let the time dictate whether we take the fendt out or not. We are going to leave the 8S down here. I might even, yeah, I'm not going to even drive the 8S back. We're going to actually leave that. If you'll excuse me for a minute, I'm going to have to pause my game here. I'll be right back. Oh, sorry about that. Had to wrangle a fur baby up. Um, we have a lot of cats, and sometimes things go down, and in order not to look like a scary animal from the Black Lagoon, I've got to take off my headset and kind of pause the game and not have a controller in a hand. Um, yeah, you have those one or two cats in your life that are super like anxious. You don't want to scare them. I didn't want to scare her, so that's me. Mr. Sealy P has the farm dog, and I have barn cats. Which any of you familiar with, farms would obviously you get the barn cat reference. Those play a real integral role in pest control. But I mean, even barn cats have their limits, right? So a lot of these mods that we have coming out right now really kind of changed the game. I will say I've been impressed recently. Um, I sit here and I play this game well enough, and even at work, I find time to check the mod hub. Right around 10 a.m. Eastern time is when we typically see mods start to come out. And I mean, the website will literally update as the mods are coming out. So if they don't have everything out right away, you might not see something till okay, have to shut that off to get over the row. Not looking forward to trying to deal with those. But mods have been really, really interesting as of late. We've got a lot of late farming simulator life cycle mods coming out right now. In other words, mods that were in Farming Simulator 19 rather late in its existence, like close to when the game was getting done, and we've got a lot of those coming out currently because modders have been converting those over. Even the Swadro 2000 here, for example, this was a windrow that was in Farming Simulator 19. It came out rather late. I don't know why so many of the better mods came out. Maybe it's because modders are better practiced in the specific game engine that they use by the time that you get late into the life cycle. I'm not really sure how that works. I'm not a modder. I don't have the brain for modding. And that that may be like a curse. It may be a blessing. I don't know. Sid modding's got some decent stuff coming out here in the recent, in the next couple of months. I think we'll see some decent things out of there. We might even see something in particular on this farm that Sid modding will be putting together. So stay tuned. I'm not really sure how that's going to go down yet, but I am really excited to see it if it does come out, and this farm will be better for it. It's also not an AgCo mod specifically, but then again, AgCo's Ideal Harvester, which is what we've got on the farm currently, is a very popular harvester in Europe and the UK. I have not heard or have not seen. It's not to say that there aren't, but I haven't seen too many examples here in the States of the Ideal. And it may just be that the Ideal, because of how hyper advanced the Ideal is, you just don't see that many examples of it here. I just turned that on before I cleared that headland windrow. Well, that's cute. We're going to have a gap there, but that's okay. That's the thing about grass work is it's a bit more forgiving. You don't have to worry about it quite as much. If this was the old school seasons, we'd have to start worrying about this rotting into the ground over time, which would be okay. I mean, hay doesn't do it as quickly in old school seasons if it's exposed to air and things. And the silo systems. That's really where my passion comes in with mods lately. I just want to say the amount of different things just brought through because of silos is phenomenal. Um, Fermenting silos. You have multi-fruit silos that look more like what you would see haylage go into. So you can get this feeling of haylage like we're doing here. Um, Obviously, I've got some plans for the future as far as haylage silos go. There's a multi-fruit silo that I really like, and it looks a lot like the fermenting silos that you see in game, or one particular type anyway. And those are really American styled. And given the amount of farms that I see, um, they use bunks or they use silo systems to feed the cattle. It's phenomenal that they finally were able to do that. It it was kind of disappointing and a letdown when I first started up the game, and the silo that's attached to the barn in Elm Creek, that's a haylage or a silage, silo, whatever. Whatever you put into it, it's a silo for it. And you get into the game and it's like there is no connecting belt, there is no way to put animals into the barn or anything like that. And it's a design choice by the game designer. It's not a design choice by the gamers. But what was so phenomenal was just how quick everybody kind of in the modding community kind of came together and went, well, we need American styled things. Um, the player base on the American side might feel a little neglected, and it's true. But it's a European-made game. The company is from overseas. They are working on getting offices set up here. That is a definite and a known thing. We have community coordinators now within the United States. Kermit. I've never watched any of Kermit's stuff, so I can't give you an honest to God opinion on the guy directly, but he's the North American kind of community liaison. I don't know his official title. Obviously, we have ambassadors to the programs. Those are like community contributors that have direct communication with people within the company. They're large enough. They have large enough fan base to have kind of these special communication lines that allow them to speak to giants. So I think what they're doing there is really important. But anyway, getting back to the modders, it's amazing how many modders really listen to people in North America that are like, hey, we don't really have things that represent us, I like to play on North American maps because that's what I'm familiar with, whereas somebody who lives in Germany, Eastern Europe, any of those places, they're going to want maps that remind them of home. Or maybe they're going to want something exotic like American maps that they can have huge equipment in. This map allows for bigger equipment, yes, but because of the drainage ditches and the traffic and things, it's difficult to get around, and that's representative of Michigan as far as tile plowed fields and drainage ditches in certain regions of the state. Now, somebody from Michigan might come on and be like, there's very few examples of those. You need to shut your face. You've never been there. Yes, my limitations are from what I've seen while visiting Michigan, and also from seeing how farmers handle fields in Michigan. I've seen examples of farmers in Michigan that turn a swampy area into a field. They take the time to tile plow it and to put the drains out into a drainage ditch and things like that. So I have seen examples of it in Michigan. If it's not how all of Michigan goes, that's okay. You know, we could have a map made in Maine, where I come from, and it might only be representative of an area that's only makes up like 3% of the state. And somebody comes on and says, "Well, this is pretty accurate to the area." That's because it's accurate to the area that they've seen either in media or in, um, in their visits to the state. Maybe they visited the state once or twice. So they may have an opinion on how the state looks based on a region that they've been to. In the regions that I've visited and the regions where I've seen media and pictures and things of that nature, these practices are normal for me. This is American. But here I am. I'm waffling. I'm getting off a topic. I'm all over the place. Back to American mods. So, uh, I I just want to say the modding community, even the folks in Europe, because a large bulk of you are in Europe. I just want to say how impressive it is that so many people from that community listened to what fans and players are having trouble with, because in reality, I mean, that's the biggest trouble that I have. It was like when they were advertising this game, they were advertising the fact that tractors would have the European and, let's say, North American options. I don't want to say American because it sounds kind of pretentious, but they had the North American options. So we started playing the game, and it's like, oh my god, I left those flashers on the whole time in the field. Sorry for those of you that have been screaming, shut your flashers off. Anyway, so you started playing the game, and there were a couple of models of tractors that had EU and US. They put them as US options. I won't say it's just the United States, because I feel like even in Canada, for example, typically the rules are North American. It's not necessarily a American versus Canadian versus this, that. It's normally North American, South American are the rule sets, to be fair. So, we got to this point, where we're seeing this stuff, and the reality is, and I don't know if this is primarily to do with COVID, because I'm guessing it has to do with COVID and the lack of being able to travel around. But they had some great representations of tractors that you would find readily in America, but then you go to actually look at them, and they have, even though they don't have the European options attached to them at the time, you do US options, they don't do something just right with the, something you'd see in the US model. They just went, well, this John Deere was found in both Europe and US. I doubt there were that many factory differences. Well, actually, there are huge factory differences in tires, in safety markers, which, was the one thing that they typically changed. But they had all these things that specifically were prominent in the European models. Fenders on certain John Deeres that didn't have those options when they hit the state factories. One of the things that I hate seeing the most is you go to the interior, and the interior safety warnings and labels. It's not something that you typically spend too much time nitpicking over. And I didn't spend any time when I first started playing nitpicking over this. But the interior decals, for example, have stickers that are in German. Not a big deal to most people, and it's very nitpicky, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound ungrateful. Like I said, as far as the base game goes, Giants made a perfect foundation for what would later be the game. Okay? So Giants, that's not a complaint to you. You did absolutely fine. But, when I'm seeing that stuff, it drives me a little crazy. Oh, I forgot I need to windrow this little nub down here. Okay, so we're gonna windrow this little section. We've got a lot of unharvested, or not, grass that wasn't harvested last time. Anyway, I don't want it to sound nitpicky, but if I'm on an American map, the last thing I want to do is drive a John Deere, which I know they produce the model in America. The last thing I want to do is read German labels. I'm not importing German-made tractors when American factories were heavy with John Deere. Some of it, like I said, I don't know whether it was COVID that stopped them from getting a look at American models up close and personal. Obviously, if you're German and you're a German-based company and you're making a game on farming equipment and you have access to only the German equipment and you can't make the trip across the sea without a lot of things kind of aligning, then you're gonna go with what you can go with. Okay. Hey, look at that. Quick trip over. Got the fendt katana here. This is one of my favorite additions. I will say, Giants, for the love of Pete, if anybody sees this, get the European options on the forage harvesters. Because all the forage harvesters you have on tap are all sold in some capacity within the United States. And it's a little ridiculous that you can't just take those harvester signs off. Those markers are not accurate to any way, shape, or form of the American ones. And, I won't nitpick you as far as putting German text in here or whatever, which I don't think this cab has anything that's in German in here. Yeah, there's no safety warnings or anything. I don't know if that's typical of the harvester or not. Anyway, we're gonna get this bugger out because we need to get that grass up. And transporting around, this is gonna take a while. We'll probably, well, if I had to guess, we're probably just gonna work through the night. It is 11:30 now. We're actually doing pretty good on time overall. 11:30 in real life, not in the game. We live on Weiss Road. That's pretty nice. We're actually going to see how this works on our small field to start. Obviously, if we run into any hiccups while we're doing this may be one of those things where I get everything set on the harvester and I get it parked next to the house, and then I fast forward through time and kind of rest. I don't have a whole lot going on today. I turn on the first set of lights just so we're... I don't know why the safety flashers aren't on for this bit. Obviously the rice trailer is not something that is American, but that's okay. Unfold the pickup header. Actually going to turn that on, and we're going to turn into the field here. We're going to do this double lane first. I want to see how well this trailer does with a full load. Like I said, if the trailer performs well, I realize it's European, but we'll make that work to our advantage. You know, it's got a dolly system on it. Obviously, with grass work, we don't need to back it into the bunk. With bunk work, we will, but that's when we'll have the truck just there. We can detach the dolly, let the truck hook in, and back it into the appropriate place. This is the first time I'm using the fendt katana in any role. But we are doing it for grass work. We're not running any sort of silage additive here. Could probably use that to manipulate the system and get a little more hay, but I really don't want to do that. So you wouldn't typically run the additive in for haylage. You might run like one jug through for haylage to keep it from holding in the silo. We're not gonna use it this time around. I may think to do that later. I don't know. We're gonna have enough cornfields here. Oh, I forgot to jump into my jumpsuit. Here I am working a fendt, and I didn't get into my fendt work clothes. This is another very cool added piece. So we're gonna do the fendt. I don't know that there's a fendt hat. There isn't, so we're just gonna put on the farm sim hat. There we go. Now I'm in at least a fendt jumpsuit. Europeans, they literally, like, I've seen so many times in a farm where they'll have John Deere jumpsuits or fendt jumpsuits or the Kloss jumpsuits. And it's really cool that they have kind of this mindset of working like they've always worked. This is actually a spectacular haul to start. Whoop. And I do have the Kemper header. I have the Kemper header because fendt does not actually, at least as of right now, there is no fendt variant for the katana. Both corn header and grass pickup has to go to the Kemper brand, but that's why Kemper's a multi-brand kind of use header. And it's not unusual to see that. I mean, I think the only time that I've really seen, you know, one brand get used more than any other is when it's, or one brand where the header matches is when it's either available or when it's actually at a decent price. And a lot of times it's John Deere or Kloss that I see matching headers on. I wish they had AGCO branded equipment, I really do. It would make it kind of easier. So we're going to move things. Fortunately, we're going to move things in a slow direction. That's just because I don't want to run into any issues really today. You wouldn't want to run over that grass more than once. 57,000 liters. This is the reason that we've got to put in roads. I'm doing this struggle. I realize I don't have crop destruction on right now, but I'm doing this struggle to represent what it's like before we put these roadways in, because I am going to put in gravel roadways that connect to the farm to the hay fields. It's going to take away a tad bit of the crop fields. But honestly, at this rate, it's kind of like a necessary evil, because you can see we have to go up and around. It is shorter going this way than the other way. Unfortunately, there aren't any access roads that directly connect on the other end either. So our grass dryer's in the main yard. It's very similar looking to storage we have for our straw. But I mean, this is very representative of what you'd have to typically do on a farm that deals with a lot of haylage and has fields spread out as well. This is kind of how this goes in all reality. I did want to show off the katana today. It's not a vehicle that we use very often, and it's not a vehicle that I've seen used very often yet in streams and YouTube videos and things like that. I don't see a lot of forage harvesters to begin with. I live for dairy farming, which means I live for forage, and I live more for the American style of doing it. So of course, haylage in silos and things of that nature. Those are all very representative of what I like to do. Okay, so let's get ourselves pull in front of traffic. I don't think the traffic actually stopped. I hate that. Yeah, I don't think it actually stopped. I think it ran into the side of the trailer. Now, the only thing that's going to be an absolute pain is the location I had to put this didn't leave a lot of room for maneuvering. This is all part of that test. Like I said, I am testing this quite a lot to see if this is even a viable setup to do this on. So we start with a very wide turn. Hopefully that gave us enough. And see, it didn't give us enough clearance that way. So the first real problem has come through. I don't really have enough room to swing the trailer that way, which is gonna cause problems. Okay. I thought this offloaded in a non-tipping fashion too. So that in itself could cause other types of problems. Okay. So we're going to activate that dryer. It is actually a very fast dryer in the amount that it dries. And 11,000 liters left on there. I think the best thing to do in the world is going to be to park the Mack truck over here. And just kind of have the Mack truck back that in every time. Let's see, we've got enough grass. Got enough grass to pull to bang a Yui. So it's not really problematic in that regard. And honestly, the grass once it's turned to hay is not going to be staying there anyway. But let's. I'm just going to detach the super liner here. It's over at our productions plant anyway. This is the Superliner X. Very loud. It's the 82 Studios variant of the Mack truck. God, that is loud, loud, loud. See, the sun visor takes care of the sun, but you also can't see much. I love it. The details are so well done in this truck. The jig brake, at least, is doable. So we've got a little bit of a problem there. We'll have to demolish the grass dryer and put it in somewhere different. That's okay. For now, we are gonna just get that parked right here, and every time that we come back with a load of grass, we will simply start this thing up and attach it to the trailer. I like the setup. I was having some difficulties figuring things out. You can see we've got trees planted everywhere now. We've got some cattle barns that have been built up for our heifers as they're born. We've only got 1 month before we start getting some calves, and what we're going to end up doing in this case is we're going to sell about half of the calf population born off, and we'll keep the other half to adulthood, and then once those are in adulthood and they give birth to the next line of calves, then we'll start selling the calves off. Unfortunately, we don't have a barn that goes over, 200 head of cattle currently. So we are struggling to figure out how we're going to deal with the numbers. There is a 500 cow one, but it's this huge awning that basically doesn't look like anything a dairy farmer would have. It's perfect for beef cattle. Like, if you're going to do a beef ranch on a bigger, wide open map, that sort of cattle enclosure would be perfect for you. So I don't want to make it sound like they don't have one out there, but they don't currently have one out there for dairy farmers in reality. I mean, you could... Luckily, the one that's out there has like a dairy trigger. There is a map that's just literally for cows. That's huge, but it's... I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me, the way that they have that done, so... Anyway, we're going to get over there. We're going to do some more of this for a little bit longer. I think it's 11:50, so we're going to call this at 12:30. So we're going to give it 40 minutes of just some grass work today. I just wanted to do something real simple, kind of take up some time in June, so that you can kind of see the process that people go through, and then kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be doing moving forward. Of course, the corn harvest is the next big thing, and I may leave it till we have corn harvest. The wheat harvest is like a medium thing. It's not necessarily huge. It's not small, but it's not the biggest thing out there either. So maybe we'll see some combine harvester work as well. But for the month of June, this is technically our second cut of hay that we're getting down, and that means for us, second cut's gonna be kind of critical. But it also means that we're doing something that's already been done. Okay, so that short pipe reaches forever. I was a little worried. I was actually a little worried about that. In Farming Simulator 19, that short pipe wouldn't have reached probably even what we've got going right now. Fendt katana. I wasn't really sure about this, but now that I've got it running, I am. I honestly couldn't be happier with this. We are taking in a bit more grass than I thought. The next load will bring us up to 114,000 liters of hay. So if we can get like 2.5 loads off of this at a lower yield, this is kind of in the mid-range. If we could get that, though, that'd be amazing. Okay. Let's shut it down until we get it lined up here. I don't really know how much of that line I was able to take in. Even if we get 2 loads out of this yielding, I would be good with that. think we're going to try for soybean and corn out of this next. Or soybean or corn. If we don't go through all that much silage, I may do something like that anyway. I'm going to see how much hay we actually generate off of these two fields. Because we have a third field that's about a month behind on cutting, so we could technically cut next month on that field. But we have to collect straw on that field and go through a whole other mess of things. So I'm not really sure what we're going to do. We may turn this into straight up haylage and have that in the large fermenting silo that we have towards the front of the barn, which is still fermenting chaff. This is going spectacularly. Get that light off though. We don't need those safety flashers on. Only when we're on the road. And the Kemper pickup header is doing exceptionally well. It looks like we're going to be lucky enough to get at least 2 1/4 trailer loads off of this. Just gonna back this up a little bit. Just give it enough room for the 8S to get in. Detach that, move that forward. I like the katana. That's a nice model. We won't have to struggle with the drop off. This is another thing, is we need to formulate kind of the drop off, figure out if the building works. One of the things that I'm terrible at, and I'll openly admit it because I openly showed that today, is building placement for use. You can see that most of the buildings are placed quite nice, but for whatever reason I just get these terrible, what I would consider brain farts, and then you end up with buildings like that just at random. So that is something that I sometimes struggle with. Oh, sorry about that. My allergies are peaking like crazy today, so I'm sneezing. And yes, I know it's allergies. I can tell the difference. Excuse me. Like I said, it was a long week. I had a 50-hour work week this week. Some people called out and they needed shifts covered, and lo and behold, there I was, able to do it. I didn't have any appointments this last week. It does feel great to be home and have a day off, and sleeping in is like 7 o'clock. That's a real victory right there. I would have liked to have actually slept in for a while, but the reality is, you don't always get that chance, and especially as a parent, you don't get that chance. Not to say that it was parental things that kept me up this morning. I think I'm just so excuse me. I think I'm so ingrained into the current clock that I'm in that it's hard to kind of come out of it after being in it so long. So I did definitely enjoy my quiet time and my ability to kind of just sip my coffee this morning instead of having to really work on paying attention to my time. It's nice when that happens. We don't always get the opportunity to just sip coffee and move out, but we definitely got that opportunity today. Getting a little close to that wheat field. It's one of 2 fields that I've planted wheat in this year. And of course, I'm saying that, and I'm having to think, was it just 2 or did I do 3? I think it was just 2 in this case. So we go wide with the tractor so we don't have to go as wide with the trailer. A little bumpy bump right there. Shut my blinker off. See, I've got quite a trailer fleet going on. I think in order to set things up right, I might get one more Reich dolly and run that big TLX trailer. But for grass work and for the fact that we're only working 2 fields of grass, I'm just going to do it this way for now. See, our brand new bunk is fresh and awaiting its first load of chaff. Which, oh my god, is going to be a spectacular and magical moment for me. Alright, so we need to pay close attention to what we're doing here. This particular dryer is a fantastic piece. I actually did an experiment with the grass dryers in particular and found the one that worked the best for this. I want to try to offload that over the edge as best I can. So that's probably going to be the only real awkward thing, is offloading grass out of the trailer, and it will be a definite big motivator for me to... it'll be a big motivator for me to try to do these things only twice a year if I can help it. Okay, so let's take a look at the dryer. Interested in kind of getting a look at that. Now you can see the production costs per month are 600. Cycles per month though are 1200. And you can see I've already got 70,000 hay for the 114,000 that I've put in there. This is why I'm using this dryer in particular, is because I can get this dried and I can get it placed in its silo, the appropriate silo. Speaking of which, I actually want to say it's been a joy to have these, but between now and the next episode, we are going to actually change these out. So you won't see these wooden ones here anymore. This is kind of a cool thing. I like the way they light up. I like kind of the circuit that they give. But in order to do hay from the dryer, we're going to do something a little different there. We've actually got a couple of steel ones that are American in design. And they're going to look 10 times better than, those wooden ones. Okay. I know the intake over here doesn't get used. It's kind of weird to me that that's not used. They don't just have an exit pipe right there. Grass going up in, but apparently that's not how that one works. Obviously the one next to it is the bale shredding one, which is a completely different animal. But as you can see, parking the truck and doing it that way was in fact the way to handle it. I hope the game audio isn't too loud. I've been a little worried about that. I don't have as many of the balancing and mixing options as I had prior. So if you happen to watch a video and it's way too loud, especially with the truck or something like that, just let me know. I'm going to try something a little different here. Been putting this off, but we might as well experiment with this before the corn season. So the dolly that the TLX has with it is a occasionally touchy dolly, I'll say, because it does. It moves or rotates in a way I've never figured it out. I had the same problem in Farming Simulator 19, but it's extra long. It's got like an extra long pin hitch. It works really well for modded forage harvesters that don't allow for hookups on other things. But we're gonna try something here with the Reich dolly. Obviously, the Reich dolly works just as well as any of the other dollies, but I want to see. I want to see how well we can get away with this attached to the forage harvester this way, because I may just get a second TLX now that we've caused a traffic jam. That's what I tend to move the camera around to look at different angles on these things. I should probably really just focus on the road with such a large trailer. Then again, in order to get through this intersection just right, see, pulling that dolly so wide, that actually brought it up off the tire. So I know I've been talking about, conservation and keeping soil erosion down and everything like that. We are going to go ahead at the end of corn harvesting season, and we're going to pull the Delta track out and I'll hook it up to the 2410 plow, which is that big John Deere plow that we have. We're going to go through and we're going to plow up the cornfields. I don't think at this point that I don't think I'm gonna like the lack of yield from the harvest. It's an experiment that I'm gonna do, and given the amount of silage that we'll probably create, I may not have to do a silage harvest for a long time after that. Which may also prompt me to go ahead and open a biogas plant, because we do want to become completely self-sufficient on the farm itself for everything, minus diesel, of course. There's no way to produce that from what we've got so far. Not to say that biodiesel will not become a thing, because I feel like that will eventually become a thing, but right now it's not an option. So we're going to see how this works. Obviously, with the short pipe now, things go a lot farther in its pacing. But I want to see if the forage harvester can handle hauling this trailer when it's full. And see if it can handle, being able to shoot all of the grass into there. Plus, if we can do it at 250,000 liters a time versus the 57,000 liters, then it'll give me a reason to buy a second one of these trailers, but B, it'll also give me an excuse to go ahead and just stick to those trailers and not have anything extra. Because I will not need the Reich cart if this trailer works 100%. But I mean, that's also a thing that you can't ascertain right away. You can't tell if it's really going to work or not. So that's part of the reason we're going to do these trailers. God, what an excellent piece of machinery. I like this. This fendt. Okay. So this is the real challenge here. It's real. Oh, see? It snapped around. So we know we've got a few limitations to this. and I'm not sure how that dolly is going to continue to take it. Might take it just fine. And the other thing is we don't know how much of this trailer it's going to fill. If it's a pain in the butt because it doesn't fill the exact back of the trailer, I don't want to play with a piece of machinery that's not going to work 100%. Like it's silly to haul this trailer in if you can't get this trailer completely filled. Not to say it won't let me do that, but I did note, with forage in particular, it is noticeable that it doesn't always let you get the trailer full. So you guys get to see my experiment today as well. Obviously, if this doesn't really work, then my next move is going to be to get a second rice trailer with probably a second dolly. I say probably because I'm not really sure that I'm going to devote a second dolly to hauling it. Grass so far is chugging. We're almost up to 50,000. So I'd say the first field there gave us about 2.5 loads. The yield off of this field is way larger than the one off of that one. Actually going to stop and we're going to check out the pH. So pH is reading okay across the board. So every 2 cuts on grass is going to require a pH. And then it looks like certain nitrogen areas are just bad. So it looks like at least for some of these fields we're going to need nitrogen applications as well as pH applications after each go. Ah, you can hear the tine. I never noticed that you could hear the tines actually working, which are the little metal teeth that shove the hay into that auger piece there. So their teeth are there, auger piece there, razors and choppers there. That's interesting. I never noticed that you could hear that before. The katana actually seems to work through. I don't know if it's because it's designed by a company that does a lot of grass work or what, but it seems to do better with the grass work than a lot of the other brands of forage harvester. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind. Obviously, the yield percentages are really good here. It's a little harder to maneuver with this trailer. Granted. Okay, this is that little accident that I had earlier. I have to do this in a couple of different backwards and forwards, but that doesn't bother me. There we go. You can see we're just kind of pushing through. Another spot that I hit with the hit just a tad bit too early. Would have done the same thing had I not caught it earlier. So far, we're up to 100,000 liters. That's cool. I've got another 150,000 that I can squeeze into this trailer. It doesn't seem to matter that it's only shooting to the center. It's starting to spread everything out. So I may be able to get away with that. Got 15 minutes left of the stream today anyway. It's not much longer today. I may be able to get away with that moving forward. Kind of hoping it's the case, because then we can just get two of those trailers and call it a day. These trailers can haul anything. It's from another trailer from 82 Studios. Real impressive piece of work. And honestly, with that grass dryer, if that works to our advantage, excuse me, if that works to our advantage, of course, we're not going to have much to really complain about, because we can shuffle grass out of there almost as quick as we can shuffle hay out of there, I should say. Well, that's probably the sharpest line that you'll ever have to see us take in a field. And it seems to have worked out. So far, I'm impressed with this experiment. I typically don't do the forage harvester experiments on stream because they don't tend to work out. It's like if I didn't have a long pipe on this on FS19, this wouldn't fill this trailer to this capacity so far. It would actually have to stop because that nozzle changes direction. Everything's auto. I know there's a manual control option now, but everything is everything's okay by me if it's automatic for this part, honestly. We'll have to think about getting some slurry out here and some more covering these fields. We're gonna have to think. About actually getting some lime out here. I haven't even checked the financial screen here. You can see there is no grass left in that dryer. Not exactly sure if I'm thrilled about how quick that moves or not. Yeah, and you can see we have a loan there. I actually got to pay off some of that loan while I'm standing here. I have been doing that a little as we've been doing the trade over program here. I have been actually collecting a loan because we're going to have all sorts of produce and other things. I already actually had a loan put out and paid that off with all the stuff that we were able to sell, like the strawberries. It's kind of freaky when you think about that, because that means at one point I had a loan that was way higher than that one, and I managed to make enough to destroy the loan. So if you can do that, all the more power to you. Like I said, I'm going to start looking at some money generator options. We're going to start doing, getting set up and getting ready for the next portion of this, which is to create our own energy and self-sufficiency when it comes to things like electricity, and when it comes to things like heating. There'll be some things that we do independently from that. So there are some options coming up. Just not many yet. You've been enjoying the series so far here on Frankenmuth. I will start uploading the Frankenmuth files this Sunday evening. So all of the streams, I think there's been a total of 3 or 4 streams so far in Frankenmuth here since I got everything fixed and rebalanced. So if you're interested, if you like the series, if you've only managed to catch one of the series, Maybe watch more things on YouTube. I will be uploading those to YouTube in the coming days. Um, Hopefully tomorrow evening is the overall plan for those. We're just chugging through this grass here. Like I was mentioning before, forage harvesters will actually catch fire if the hay is too dry. One of the things that you'll typically see is when hay is cut, specifically with the idea that forage harvesters will be collecting the hay, the farmer will either wait till in the evenings, like we're doing here, when the grass is damp. There's no tedding involved. They'll just simply cut and windrow it and let it dry in the sun by itself for a couple of days. The problem with that being that when that does occur sometimes, the overall stance of the machine will have it so that it's actually it actually catches fire because there's too much friction. It gets clogged. The grass actually requires some dampness in order for it not to catch fire. And I did recently watch a YouTuber that educated people on that matter and educated people on the matter of why fire departments typically cannot put those fires out right away, all sorts of things. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to haul this back to the grass dryer, and then we're going to actually call it a night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the fendt off here. Put the pipe down, and shut the lights off. I'm going to call it a night for the fendt. We're going to leave her out in the field because she's going to get used in the morning. We're going to go around and we're going to do some tending on the animal pens in the morning. We'll go get this offloaded to the hay dryer. See, the tractor is filthy to the point where I am going to have to hose it down just so that the windows can be seen out of. I just turn on the regular lights so we're not blinding people that are driving up behind us, even though I'd like to do that to some of the NPC drivers that I come across. So it seems like the Reich dolly behaves itself more. I have tipping issues with the TLX dolly that comes with these trailers. It's a really useful tool to have, but for whatever reason, when I hooked it up to a forage harvester to try it out and test it, it actually flipped up on its side quite a lot. It created a lot of problems. This dolly is not doing that. Okay, so we want to pull ahead and pull ourselves into the street here. And June is actually looking spectacular for the month of June this year. So just like any other farming, when the sun shines, you make hay. That's what we're doing here, is we're making hay. Actually, I'm gonna do something that I wasn't planning on doing right away here. And I'm gonna take a look at these silos, and I'm gonna take a look specifically at that multi-fruit. This is part of the Americas pack by Omatana. Like I said, Omatana makes a lot of stuff that makes it worth it. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put this down here. And we're just gonna no. See, that's crooked. That's straight. The corner is crooked over here. So I'm actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put down one of those. And that's what all the hay is gonna go into for the wooden silos. We're gonna have 2 of those. I don't know. I don't honestly know how we're gonna handle the. I don't know how we're gonna handle the silage yet. We may just decide to pour that in as well. All right, let's see. Get our Mac going here. We're gonna have to have the work lights on. Stuff. I don't know why those lights insist on being there. They're in completely different angles, but they insist on looking in completely 2 different ways. That's weird. I don't know how that goes. And I know what you guys are thinking, and I think you're correct in thinking that, but obviously it's a longer trailer, it's harder to maneuver. It's really not. The TLX trailer is really nice. It dumps quick, so I can cancel out. I can let it kind of ease. See, it got rid of 55% right away, which is nice. We're gonna let it get down. Start overloading again. Oh, okay, it clears it. So this is actually... Excuse me, didn't mean to burp in everybody's ear. It looks like that is actually a better overall choice. Okay, so you can see, I mean, the incoming... in the description, I don't have an overall storage capacity, but I can tell you right now, that's crazy how quick it's going through it, but also you can see those lines aren't getting bigger on either side. And I added a lot of grass, and there's a hefty amount of hay there, and it's still not producing in the same way. All right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna wrap up hay for now. I love this thing fully lit up. It's just gonna. We'll actually just pull this forward. Well, now we ought to get the trailer into position because I am gonna head back out and finish the hay. Like I said, by the time you come back in for the next stream, we'll be doing meat. So yeah, I thought that over while I was streaming. While I was doing this. Looks like we're definitely going to keep with the Lizard Logistics trailer here. So that X52 tipper. It looks like I'm going to buy a second one of those. I will change the color scheme on the older one. For now, we're just going to shut the Mack truck off. Going to go in. We're going to rest, and then we're going to handle our animals. But yeah, these two, we'll go ahead and we'll just set these two as the grass options. I'll get a second one over here, and then of course the grass dryer will be over on that end of it. So it'll be set up just right to handle intake, outtake, and it'll still give the silage area enough. Plus straw is kept easily enough. See, we don't have a whole lot going in the garage. This is like a 1940s style of house. Right after World War II, kind of what was springing up in California a lot. And turn the lights. lights on in the main part of the house, and of course the back part. But for now, we're just going to relax and enjoy the view. We're going to have a whole lot going in the garage. This is like a 1940s style of house. The great after World War II, kind of what was springing up in California a lot. And turn the lights on in the main part of the house, and of course the back part. We're going to sleep till about 5 a.m. The last thing we'll do today is we'll tend to the animals if they need it. If they don't, I'll say my farewells. You can see production cost $61, loan interest $155. It's not terrible, but we're going to be looking at selling some product and getting some things handled. Silage silo over here. I have 439,000 liters of silage. So it's really not going to be bad. The one concern I'm having is like running out of food like instantly when the calves are born. Food is looking good. Yeah, we've got 42,000 total mixed ration there. We've got 45,000. And we've still got 15,000 with the brown Swiss. So it looks like the animals are okay. We're going to make one more visit. And I'm actually going to use map function here. I know what you're seeing there. We're going to... Oh, that's why we can't. Going to enter the vehicle. We're just going to pop out. As you can see, the greenhouses are producing at quite a decent rate here. We've got a few crates running here and there. You can see they kind of go down very slowly in liquid fertilizer and water, so you don't have to constantly be over here filling these. That's kind of a key. We've already got 29,000. We're 1 liter short of 30,000 liters. So that's cool there. Huh. I wonder what made that other one so special as to produce 3. We're going to let these fill up for a while. But as you can see, the hydroponics greenhouses are doing really well. We've got strawberry production going right now. Got our farm store over here that's selling and doing well in product. And we've got our truck and our forklift. So we're going to sell... We're going to sell products such as milk and strawberries for the next couple of months. We're going to get some gusto moolah out of that to pay off our loans, which helped us get our equipment. But besides that, I mean, as you can see, it's turning out and shaping out to be a good AgCo farm. I'm going to finish up, of course, this month's grass work today will be finished up. Well, in this game day today will probably be finished up, and then we'll worry about fertilizing and things like that. Hopefully you'll get to see a little more of the Delta track. I got to do a good amount of work with this planting the corn, so I was happy with this. You can see we've got 2.9 hours on this sucker. It is very good with corn. Oh my god, it was very fun to haul the Kinsey planter with. I had a great time with it. And then, of course, we had the rolling that we had to do as well with everything. So you can imagine how that goes. So we have gotten rid of the bulk of the John Deere equipment. We have one tractor left, which is just the 4400. That's over in the barn. That's hooked to the feed wagon, which is actually what that would be used for at a lot of farms that still had it. And right now, this is our only planter for grass-type things. Like, this is our only seeder. But I have a feeling we're going to be graduating to something bigger as we get closer to winter wheat. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do a little more work getting everything set up in those steel silos. They're technically multi-fruit, but we're going to use them purely for grass. And then by the next time you see us in the middle of the wheat harvest, we'll also have brand new baby calves. And we'll probably go through the sorting process and make some money off of the half that we're going to sell. And the half that we're going to keep is going to go into that central barn right there. So I just want to thank everybody for coming in on the stream today. It means a lot if you watch this, if you like it. If you don't follow the channel but you want to follow the channel, please. It helps me. I need 50 followers to get to affiliate. Once I get to affiliate, I'll start really kind of upgrading my gear and moving forward from there. And I know I mentioned in the last stream that we one income family. That is true for the moment, but on some better news, that may be changing soon. So just thank you again for coming in and watching this episode if you do. Even if you only peruse it for about 15 minutes, I just want to thank you so much for doing that. Any time watching this really counts, and I can't wait to harvest some corn and some wheat and move on and raising more cows. So thank you again, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of the weekend. I know I am certainly